Hi, everyone. Today we have Kelli Romine, Kelli with an I, from Link, and she does other things too. But anyways, thanks for joining us today, Kelli.
Thank you for having me.
We're really excited to hear what you're a part of, and what you're trying to do, what you are doing here in the city. But let's start first with who is Kelli Romine? Where do you hail from? Do you have a family? Do you have interests outside of just working? Can you just tell us about that?
Sure. I've been here in Idaho for about 16 years. Before that, I grew up in a farming and dairy community in Southern California. And as it built up, I didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So when we got the opportunity to move, we took a year and we found Caldwell, Idaho. And it just felt like home for me. And but in Southern California, I raised 3 girls that are now adults and independent and doing great. One of them lives here in Idaho. The other 2 are still in California. But before I came here, I was a realtor and a special ed teacher. And so when I moved to Idaho, there was plenty of realtors. So I didn't pick that up again, but I got involved in the school districts and with special ed and did that for about 7 years. And then I became what's an employment specialist. So it's kind of a subcontractor for vocational rehab, where I help people with disabilities find jobs in the community. And I loved that work. I did raise 2 daughters that are either deaf or hard of hearing. And although the first 15 or 20 years of my life weren't focused around that, it just felt natural and meaningful. And so that's kind of how I got into all that, the teaching and the voc rehab job. And I took a little sabbatical, actually worked at the Caldwell Chamber for about 1.5 years. And the thing I got the most out of that, I loved the job, but just all the people I met and just feeling that much more connected to this community that I found and loved.
Right.
And so anyways, and then after that, I did get back into the vocational side of employment services. And then I found Link, which is where I work now.
Okay.
And yeah.
So you want to tell us, what is Link? Who does it serve? What's like the mission statement or the purpose?
Yeah. So Link is a center for independent living, and there's actually over 400 of them in the country. And there's 3 here in Idaho, and Link covers southwestern Idaho. And Link stands for Living Independence Network Corporation. And our primary demographic is the aged and disabled. And our mission is, I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up, empowering people with disabilities to achieve our desired level of independence. And so we're very much about personal choice and everybody having the right to make those decisions and have the same goals and dreams as anybody else. And then our vision is pretty cool too. It's a world where people with disabilities have access to the resources and opportunities to live their life of choosing. And so really it's just all about incorporating everybody.
So what does that practically look like?
So with Link or what, because I mean, practically what it looks like is not treating people differently, right? I mean, we're diverse in a lot of different ways. And just because somebody looks a little different or walks a little different or speaks a little different from a hearing impairment or hard of hearing, to just treat them all the same and give them the same opportunity.
Yeah.
And so from the side of aging, we also have a PASS program, which serves to help keep people independent in their own homes. Okay. So personal care assistance and that kind of stuff. And ours is self-directed. So they actually bring somebody they know that they want to help care for them in their home. And it's a Medicaid program.
So tell us more about the services that Link offers.
Okay, so I work on the independent living side. And we have 5 core services, but we'd be here all day if I told you everything we did.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, so. Job security, right?
Yeah.
Our 5 core services are information and referral, and we provide that to anybody. So anybody can call in and ask questions or be looking for a resource, and we point them in the right direction. Our other 4 core services they do have to have some kind of a disability. And people don't understand how broad that is. I mean, anxiety is a disabling condition. ADHD is a disabling condition. There's so many hidden disabilities. And they don't have to bring us proof or anything. They just have to say, like if they want any of these other services, because they're more in depth. And a lot of our funding is from the federal government. And so we have to prove to them that we're doing what we say we're doing, and that's serving that community.
Right.
Yeah. And so if somebody is at a point where they've got an in-home care provider, they have something going on, right? Doesn't mean they can't be independent, live in their own home, but they need help with things.
Mm-hmm.
You get to that point. At some point in time, we're probably all going to have one if we don't now.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the other 4 core services are peer support.
Mm-hmm.
So helping people find their peers and people that can relate to them. Advocacy, and we do and train people in systems advocacy, which is more at the state level, and self-advocacy. So helping them learn how to speak up for themselves. If they're going to work at a job and they need to let them know what their needs are, like if they have a reasonable accommodation to be able to do that job. They have to be qualified, but it doesn't mean there's not reasonable accommodations that could be put in place.
Right.
Yeah. We have 2 kinds of transitioning services we provide. And youth transitioning, so that's going from high school into adulthood.
Okay.
And so we help people navigate that, people with disabilities, because it looks a little different, right? Or sometimes there's skills they haven't been taught. I think actually there's a lot of high school students all the way around that there's a lot of life skills that they don't really have when they're getting ready to leave and go to college, right? I mean, there just is. I mean, how many high school students, there's probably a percentage, but have to learn how to budget and, organize their money and pay their bills, and they're wanting to be adults, but so there's a lot of those life skills that we teach. The other form of transitioning is oftentimes after someone's been in the hospital, and especially if they're on a really fixed income. If they're say they went in for a surgery and there's complications, and now next thing you know, it's been 6 weeks and they haven't been home, and now their apartment's gone and most of their stuff is gone. And we've seen this happen to a lot of people, and so they end up in skilled nursing. And as they get better, that's not where they want to be. But now they're living on $950 a month, and all their stuff is gone, and how do they ever transition out? So we have a program through Medicaid that's called Idaho Home Choice, and so it allows us to help them get back out. They actually, if somebody qualifies for that program, they give us a stipend to help them get their home set back up.
How often does that happen? Like, how often are you seeing that case happening?
So before COVID, I usually had at least 2 people like that on my caseload on a regular basis, sometimes up to 4. I haven't seen as many since then, and I think some of it is the fact that there's just not enough low-income housing. So I mean, they're on a budget. It doesn't mean they can't live on their own, but finding something they can afford is a whole nother ball of tricks.
So when you say somebody's on your caseload, so if somebody is displaced, that's how I kind of see it,
Yeah.
right? Because of a complication in a surgery or procedure. What's like I don't know if there's like an average time, but like what's the range that you see between, okay, they got displaced, they're out of the hospital, their stuff's gone, their place is gone, from, okay, you picked up the case, how long does it take for them to get back to normal, or somewhat
you mean back living in the community?
The new normal, yeah, I guess. So
it honestly is different. There's a lot of factors. Number one, finding an apartment. Sometimes it's finding an accessible apartment. I had one that took almost 2 years, and it was because of all the needs that person had. We had to have the in-home care. We had to have everything lined up like perfectly. Like a lot of them go out, and if they don't have their in-home care provider for a week or 2, they can manage. But this one couldn't. Like they had to be there when we arrived. And that was just the way it was. So there were so many moving parts, and having an accessible home, fully accessible home. Do you know what that means?
Like like the ramps and
Well,
other,
if
yeah,
necessary, but I
yeah.
mean, hers ground level, but it had to be, where the counters are a little bit lower so she can reach things to do things if
Hmm.
she's in a chair or her scooter. I mean, she had to be able to reach everything. She could not get in and out of bed on her own. So there was a Hoyer lift that had to be put together. She needed her own laundry. She needed a roll-in shower. So accessible is making it to where she can still do everything in her home and that everything is within reach for her.
It's nice to know that some of those things even exist.
Yeah.
The shower, thing. I don't really think about those things like that. So
Yeah.
it's good that those things exist for people who might need a little bit of extra help. So,
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you see working with Link? What are some of the biggest challenges that you kind of have to endure through, I guess, or you see?
Um, at the moment, some of the biggest challenges in our valley, like say for people with disabilities, affordable housing,
Mm-hmm.
housing that is, it's called visitability. And so it's like a friend of yours that wants to come to your house, but they're a chair user and you've got 2 steps to get up into your house. And so to have more houses that, it doesn't mean that it has to be fully accessible, but that they could get into and they could get around comfortably without having to come up with some kind of a ramp for them to be able to come visit you. Transportation is huge for people with disabilities. If they don't drive, which a lot of them don't, we need better transportation. They need ways to get to work that are affordable, and so those are 2 of the biggest ones. And then within the state level, some of the programs that help serve this community, there's just not been increases in rates for their caregivers, and so it's hard to keep them. It's hard to keep them because anymore, if somebody's not making at least $14 an hour, they'd rather not work and they can go to McDonald's. And so it makes it really tough to keep people.
Right.
Somebody has to want to do that kind of work.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us, was there anything else about
Let's
Link?
see. So I did transition, information referral, peer support advocacy, and the last one's independent living skills.
Okay.
So independent living skills, and we do offer classes once in a while, but oftentimes it's a one-on-one thing because everybody's needs are different.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten calls from 40-year-olds saying, I've never done this on my own. I don't know how to plan my budget. I don't know how much I need for food. I don't even know how to pay my electric bill. And so then we kind of set things up and just work with them and give them an idea and help them navigate the systems. And if it's not us, sometimes depending on what their disability is, there's other programs that are better.
Right.
So if we don't provide it or can't provide what they're looking for, we always try and help them find it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Was there anything else about Link as far as, are there any events or things that you want to plug or things that you're trying to push out or unveil?
We do have an amazing resource fair coming up.
Okay.
That's one of them. We have more than that, but I mean, that's the most recent one that we're doing. Link covers 16 counties. That's our territory. So we go all the way over to like Haley, Twin Falls, all the way this way to say Owyhee County, and then all the way up to Valley County. So large territory in a lot of very rural communities. And so we're trying to get the word out to them too, that we're here to serve. But this resource fair is happening here in Caldwell. And it's the 24th annual Health and Resource Fair. And it was originally started by another Caldwell nonprofit called Treasure Valley Community Resource Center. And they were all a nonprofit, and they just kind of closed their doors up after COVID. But they had a couple amazing programs that kept all of us intertwined that we didn't want to see go away. And one was a bi-monthly meeting, and the other was this resource fair. So some of us pulled together and have managed to keep it going, and that is coming up on April 24th. And it's going to be at O'Connor Fieldhouse, and there's going to be over 60 community partners there. So it's an amazing opportunity for people to come out and find resources. I mean, there's something for everybody that day. There really is. But I would say the primary demographic that it really has the ability to help would be like senior citizens, people with disabilities, low income, because all those resources, it's so hard to get everybody together in one place, and they're going to be there. And people just get to walk around and learn about those resources. And sometimes maybe you didn't even know one was there. Because I know the first time I went 7 years ago, I was astonished to find all those people in one place. And I learned a lot that day.
Right.
Yeah, but this year there's housing resources, transportation resources, job resources, disability resources. There's even caregiver resources, opportunities to learn more about hospice agencies, agencies that sometimes can help people find housing. And they don't always have funding, but when they do, sometimes they can help people get into a new apartment, because not everybody has the first and last month's rent or whatever that particular complex is asking for. And so there's oftentimes funds out there, oftentimes wait lists, but it's worth getting on a wait list because sometimes somebody will find something before they get to them, and then that opens that slot up. So you work your way up.
Right.
Yep. We also have some free services this year that are great. Free haircuts. Brian was complimented one of those last year. I don't know if that's the right word to say.
I was just an innocent bystander.
Oh, he was a great.
And the guy was like, "You,
yes,
sit now." I'm like, "Okay." They're not busy, so.
Yep. So let your hair grow. They'll be back in a few weeks. But yeah, they were amazing last year. It is Level Up Beauty and Barber, and they also Boise Barber School came along with them, and they just had such a great energy about them. And I think everybody had fun just even having them in the building, and they just did such a wonderful job. And all of their stylists and students were just a joy to have around. And I think they made everybody feel great and leave even feeling better, with their new styles and haircuts. And they'll be back this year. We also have Caldwell Veterinary Hospital that comes out every year, and they provide free vet checks for cats and dogs. And I didn't even know this. This year they made sure I did know, but they also have vaccines on site. So if your dog is due for a rabies shot or something else, so for people with disabilities and seniors, they provide that service free that day. I thought I don't know. It just makes me so happy that we're able to do this.
Yeah, what a blessing, right?
It so is. And St. Al's Mammogram Bus is going to be there. And there's a veterans mobile unit that shows up. And we have couple pretty amazing food vendors. Another new thing, two people were able to work together with our coffee vendor. And this year, the first 100 people that come in, not our vendors, not our community partners, but our guests, the first 100 will be offered a free coffee if they would like it. So that's pretty cool. And the other organization that helps out a lot with this is Seroptimus. So City of Caldwell, Seroptimus, the Barbers, Link, and then Blue Cross and Molina Healthcare are both, either in-kind sponsors or financial sponsors, because all those tables and chairs have to be paid for too.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a free event, and we'd love to have as many people there as possible.
Come on down.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you feel like we missed or haven't gotten to yet that you feel like is important to give a shout out to, I guess?
Well, I mean, we are going to be one of our big focuses this year is getting into those more rural communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the Caldwell office here, we're going to have a day in May where we go into Homedale and just kind of spend the day and make people a little bit more aware of who we are and what we do. And then we're also going to do it one day in Payette. And then like our Twin Falls office is picking a couple communities, and our Boise office is picking a couple of communities, because we don't want to be the best kept secret.
Right.
It's time that everybody knows that we're here to help.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Kelli, thank you so much for just sharing about yourself, about Link, the resource fair, and we're looking forward to being there. And my hope is my hair will be good enough to not need a haircut that day.
Oh, okay,
You know,
okay.
but you never know. I might ask for a mohawk while I'm there.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
I'll bring spray paint.
yeah. My son might be excited, but my daughters and my wife might be just shocked and awed that. But thank you so much for just what you do for the community, for just your constituents, but also just the Caldwell community as a whole. And thank you just for caring, for people and trying to get them, get their needs met and beyond. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you doing that.
It takes a village, and the city is a huge part of that. So thank you too.
Yeah.